So thank you, first of all, Matt and Paul and Southwest Research Institute. It's awesome to be here. My first time in San Antonio, first time here. I'm very excited for the lab tours and to meet all of you today. So thank you to both of you. So while they're getting the presentation ready, I'll just say a few things off the top. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus at a higher level than some of the technical stuff we've talked about so far today. I'm going to pull things back to specifically what are we seeing from a macro trend perspective in robotics and automation globally. I'm going to talk about 4 specific things that we're seeing impact the market greatly. I'm also then going to talk about how that is going to impact employment. And I'm going to give you our organization's message so that when you encounter these types of discussions in your day-to-day about how robots are taking jobs, there's such a negative impact on our economy, on our workforce, you'll be armed with 4 things that, that we like to tell the audience and that we like to tell the public at large about the benefits of automation. So, perfect timing, look at that. So, there we go.
We're almost there.
No worries, no worries. So, no problem. So that's me. I'm Vice President of Membership and Business Intelligence for A3. I've been at A3 for 8 years now, and I do these types of talks all across the world, talking about the benefits of automation. The goal of my work and my association is to raise the tide so that all ships floating in this sea are in a better spot. So what I do is I travel around and I talk about the benefits. We're going to touch on some of that today. But most importantly on this slide, I want to say that I'm a twice graduated MSU Spartan. I'm a big fan, so go green, and I look forward to meeting all of you. But that's enough on me. So our organization, why should you pay attention to what we have to say? Well, globally, we're the #2 largest automation trade group globally by benchmarking data. We're almost 1,300 member companies globally. You may know us as Robotic Industries Association, but RIA is part of A3, which is our parent group. RIA has almost 600 member companies now, which I'm thrilled about. For the past 4 or 5 years, I've been in charge of the day-to-day operations of AIA, which is Machine Vision and Imaging Technologies, which has almost 400 member companies. We also have a Motion Control and Motors group, which is home to companies like Rockwell and Omron and some of the more motion control side things. And we recently opened an office in Mexico. So we have a strategic presence there. So if you have operations you're looking to get connected in Mexico, please feel free to reach out to me. So I'm going to start with trends in robotics. What are we seeing in the marketplace that is impacting our day-to-day and impacting probably all of you? Well, first of all, we're seeing a tremendous increase in the amount of robots overall globally that are being shipped. So you can see that in 2019, the IFR is estimating that we actually had a flat year, which was slightly below their expectation. But as you can see going forward, they're still forecasting that we're going to grow this market globally by about 12% per year, which is nothing to shake your head at. And as you can see, over the past decade or so, we have seen significant growth to now record levels of robot deployments globally. So this is an important development. And I should point out that this is just industrial robots that this graph is depicting. There is service robotics, for example, which is a group the IFR tracks. That's field robotics, that's logistics robots, that includes mobile bases that we're going to talk a little bit about. That's forecasted to grow even faster, about double that. So where are they going? Well, we saw from Matt's presentation earlier, automotive, very mature market for applications with industrial robotics. That's still a huge piece of the market today. Electronics and electrical components, you can see, is rapidly growing. Obviously, the uptick of shipments to China and the presence of the electronics market there from a global perspective is driving a lot of that. But there's also developments and growth in these other industries like metals, plastics, food, and you can see down the list here as we go along. So the 4 things I want to talk about and focus on, I have some videos to show as examples. These are the trends that are transforming the global robotics industry. Number 1 is mobility. We don't just want to install a robot and have it do a task in one place. We want it to be able to do things, to move on its own, to increase efficiency, and to maximize our capacity utilization. That's, in a nutshell, that's the developments in mobility. And we're seeing a lot of different companies crop up. The advent of autonomous mobile robots and some of the innovations there are really driving this. The vision side is huge. So these connected, the cloud robotics, the connected factory, Industry 4.0, all of these trends need good inputs, need good information into the system in order to function properly. And we're seeing vision commonly be the choice for a lot of these companies. Cameras, LiDAR, redundant systems to get good inputs in, to connect and make good decisions with the intelligence. Gripping, there's a lot of good examples for gripping technology. Being able to do things more dexterous than we ever could before. Also being able to move different items that may be, may not be in the traditional form factors that we've come to know when it comes to industrial robot applications. And finally, the software, the brains, AI, machine learning, all of these things is another huge trend in the industry. So when we talk mobility, what I'm referring to specifically is autonomous mobile robots, is AMRs, or AGVs in some sense as well. These products have onboard intelligence systems so they can navigate autonomously. They utilize computer vision and other types of sensors to know their surroundings and know and be safe within their environments. And they also more now are using collaborative robot arms in conjunction with just the mobile base. So there are several companies, Robotics is one example, of a company using a mobile base with a collaborative robot arm to do inventory management, to pick orders in place and things like that. This is a huge trend. We actually launched an initial AMR event last year. It was sold out, 450 people in Louisville, Kentucky. There's a huge demand from the industry on this particular topic, so we're paying very close attention to it. An example of this would be Handle, if you've seen these videos from Boston Dynamics. And this is a member company of A3, Boston Dynamics. Again, this is a pretty futuristic concept, but they've recently actually worked with they're working with Auto Motors to automate some more in-depth kind of complex warehousing challenges and things like that. But you can see that this is pretty cool innovation, just on the surface, right? This is a mobile robot doing a material handling application, palletizing boxes, and it's able to navigate on its own safely, and it's functioning within the environment without any tracks or anything like that. And we're seeing this value proposition exploited by a number of companies. So Fetch Robotics is on our board of directors. Auto Motors is on our board of directors. I mentioned Robotics. There's Locust Robotics. There's a list that goes deeper than I can name standing here. But this is a very important development in robotics. When we talk vision, obviously we're talking eyes of the system. You all are probably well aware of machine vision technology. Form factors are getting smaller. So one of the trends that I've been working very deeply on at AIA in my leadership activities there is this move towards hardware needing to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller towards its theoretical limitations in terms of the physics involved in the situation. So you're seeing really interesting technology developments like lensless optics that don't actually use lenses, or computational imaging, things like the move to being able to get the input into the system without a need for a traditional box machine vision camera that may be fixed or may only be able to move in a couple different positions. And when we talk vision, it's worth mentioning that AI is often involved. Some type of AI or machine learning is often involved in a lot of our vision applications. And one of the key applications that comes to mind when you think of this is obviously AVs, autonomously navigating vehicles. This is a company, Veo Robotics, as an example.
Today's industrial robots are completely unaware of what's going on around them. So for safety, people can't be in the same process step as high-performance robots. Manufacturing steps are either fully automated or fully manual. With Veo Robotics, we're breaking this false dichotomy.
This is an example of a typical assembly task in a factory. In this case, we're putting doors on a refrigerator. Using the Veo system, it's possible for a person and a robot to work together to get this job done in a very straightforward manner. Since we're monitoring the entire 3D area in high resolution, it's not even necessary for an entire person to get near the robot. It's enough to just hold out your hand.
So again, safety is a big development. We want safe automation. We don't want risk of human injury. That could derail our entire industry for decades if something bad were to happen. Vision is being used in robotic applications to solve challenges. Veo Robotics is one example. of this. So gripping applications. When we talk gripping, there's plenty of players in the industry that are innovating here in this space. I'm going to highlight one in a moment, soft robotics. But the moral of the story here is that our end effectors are taking many different forms. So when in the past a suction cup might have been enough to do a certain application, or a two-pronged kind of pincher model, what we're seeing now is more lifelike, human-interpreted end effectors, but we're also seeing things that can manipulate objects that are small or organic in nature or fragile. And an example of that would be soft robotics. You can see in this video that they're moving things that with grippers of the past they weren't able to do. So if you just had a traditional metal, clamp or suction cup, that obviously wouldn't be able to get the job done here. But the innovation from soft robotics and others like them in the industry has led to an opening up, really, of applications in robotics in the food and beverage industry, but also in others as well. So obviously AI, it's a big buzzword, it's a big topic, but one of the things I'm going to spin to here is the positive side of AI. So when we talk AI, I like to go to autonomous vehicles, the potential to save many lives if we're able to get this done, level 5 autonomous vehicle navigation, but also the health implications of AI. So there's a lot of work being done, a lot of articles being written. Some of it's controversial. Some of it's saying that AI is going to take over the world. If you've seen Terminator 2, you're familiar with Skynet, and you know of all these things that could happen on the negative side. But if we let that feed into our perception and our understanding of the market, we're foregoing a lot of these positive things. Increasing life expectancy, being able to find and diagnose illnesses before they become terminal or they become life-threatening. And certainly autonomous navigation is one here to point out too. Now, across all 4 of those trends, there's one theme, and it's human automation collaboration. We want the humans to be able to successfully and safely work in tandem with whatever automation we're installing. In almost every case that we talk to users about, suppliers, integrators, you name it, that is prevalent. So spinning, kind of transitioning to the employment piece of this, we're going to talk about collaborative robots. So collaborative robots is a development. You can see that there's more in the marketplace today than there ever has been before. So take your pick. There's dual arm, there's single arm, there's power and force limited, there's sensing suites that you can attach to traditional industrial robots. So pretty much anything you can think up, there's a collaborative robot for that application now. And really this is helping us address the problem of humans needing to be involved and safely working within envelopes that before were just rigid safety caging, rigid safety fencing. So now transitioning out of that into employment, I'd like to take a moment and just talk about what's happening in the market in general, how we address it at the association when we get these objections, and also talk about some of the positive impacts of robots on employment, workforce, careers, and things like that. So if you're out on the internet and you're reading articles, you're seeing everything from robots, in the workforce, one costs 6 jobs. Every one robot costs 6 jobs. You're seeing headlines like the robots are winning the race for American jobs, or how to survive the robot-fueled jobs apocalypse. All this fear-mongering, right? Anything on that end. But you're also seeing some positives. You're seeing things like robots seem to be improving productivity, and robots are the biggest job creators in world history. So what do you believe? You see it on both sides, right? Well, the picture right there is Jeff Bernstein, who's the president of our association. He travels all across the world like I do, to speak on this issue, and he is really seen as a thought leader in areas like China, where they're putting tremendous amount of investment from their government into the development and support of automation technology from a real fundamental perspective. So what we're doing in an association is trying to bring that activity here to the United States so that we have a similarly supportive environment for automation when it comes to our beliefs and commonly held perceptions of the technologies. So here's the first point of the 4 that I'm going to make here. The inability to compete is the biggest threat to jobs. It's not automation. So I'm from Detroit. When all those automotive suppliers and tier suppliers hollowed out, when they went away, there were no jobs left. So when we talk about automation potentially being able to save some of those companies initially, if they were to have automated, they would have been more cost competitive on a global scale. They wouldn't have been losing business to areas outside of the United States, and potentially they would have stayed around and kept jobs. And now when those auto suppliers, when they got hollowed out, it didn't just take the suppliers away, it took the businesses away, it took the restaurants and the local communities that were in those areas away, and it really left a lot of voids in the areas. Now, Detroit's coming back, but it's really this inability to compete which is the biggest threat to jobs. It's not the automation itself. Here's an example.
Victor's Engineering is a precision machining and fabrication company. We're a contract manufacturer. It's a very old industry. We're given blueprints and whatnot. We make parts to our customer specifications. And what really sets us apart is our diversity, our willingness to embrace automation, and our customer service. So there's thousands of companies in the world that do what we do. What makes us different is how we service our customers. Our largest customer at this current time is Toyota, and we're a tier 1 to Toyota, and for a company our size, that's pretty rare. Automation's really been the key for that. It's made us cost competitive, number one. Our labor content is severely down. It's improved our product flow, it's improved our quality, it's improved the quality of people who run into the business, and most importantly, we're still flexible. We can redeploy this automation into a number of different products, a number of different industries.
Yeah, so in the interest of time, I'm going to move forward, but there are plenty of cases see me after or seek me out, and we can talk about case studies and successes here. This is what we've seen over time. The red line is unemployment. The green line is robotic installations in the United States. You would not expect these to be divergent if robotics were actually taking jobs. So I just want to point this out. This is something we present on a lot. Overall, in the highest period of time with robot installations soaring, the unemployment level in the United States is lowest level ever. From 2010 to 18, you can see the raw numbers here. 177,000 new robot shipments just to the United States. We added 1.2 million manufacturing jobs in that exact same time period. So the narrative of killing jobs is just, it holds no water, folks. And the unemployment rate similarly declined 6.1% in that time period. The second point I'd like to focus on is the technology advances have always changed the nature of jobs and how we work. This isn't on a day-to-day level apparent to us because we don't always zoom out and think about the evolution of careers. We've seen these predictions before. I mean, look at John Maynard Keynes, 1930. We're being afflicted with a new disease. You can read the rest yourself. He's a negative culture carrier against automation. Leontief, 1952. Labor will become less and less important. More workers will be replaced by machines. So this has been happening for decades in terms of the calls for automation to kill jobs. Where do we find these people anymore? I mean, we used to have elevator operators. Are they still with us today? Not too many, but those people are still working somewhere. How about street sweepers? These jobs have evolved. These jobs have changed. Even into the alley, which I'm a big bowler, so I like to look at stuff like this. I mean, it certainly make our bowling games a lot longer, but I think overall it's a net positive that we now have automatic re-rack machines. The point of this is jobs change. Jobs are automated. Technology has changed jobs, but the humans still find work. We're great at that. In fact, we're exceptionally good at that. Now, the World Economic Forum put out a jobs report that said that, yes, 75 million workers or jobs are at risk of being eliminated. Okay, but what's the other side of that? So we're putting all these robots and automation into these new applications. What's the positive that's going to come out of it? Well, they found that almost double, 133 million new jobs will stand to be created by automation. And you can read the skills that are going to be important, like analytical thinking or creative problem solving. These are human tasks that we're really good at that machines aren't quite good at yet. So, good example of this is Amazon. I'll go through this pretty quickly. I had the opportunity to tour the fulfillment center in Orlando a few weeks ago. It was incredible to see the level of automation. But during this level of automation, they've also added, they've created over 300,000 new jobs at their company. And we heard from Roger, and we have good connections with Amazon at our association as well. They're a great case study for how putting all of this automation into play is actually spooling up opportunities that we've never actually seen before on the world stage. So here's just a quick example of a new career created by this.
We've gotten a lot of on-the-job learning with regards to how these things work, how the programming works, because I had no background in robotics at all. Just having the opportunity to be a trailblazer is just absolutely phenomenal. I tell my family that I based 800 robots. I wouldn't have my job without these robots, and now when I walk in, it's kind of like, yeah, this it's dance on. Like, that's what I do.
Is that what you say every day too, Roger, going into work? Okay. Oh, fair enough. So third point here, I know I'm getting close on time. So if we focus on our fears, we'll miss the opportunities. I alluded to this earlier with the AI slide. But just imagine if we were to fully invest and support the technological development that's happening in this room to some of the largest challenges that we have, like being able to harness the wind that is soaring up above in the highest levels of our atmosphere. Or what if we're able to capture solar power better through automation and technology improvement, break through the cloud barrier? I mean, we could do some amazing things, solve our energy concerns. What about cleaning up our oceans and our environment? I mean, these are concepts that exist, that have been presented. These are things that are being talked about, but will inevitably run into cultural friction when it comes to what do they mean, how deeply can we invest in these types of technologies, things like that. Finally, eliminating hunger. This is a good example. This is a company called Ironox out of California. They're doing indoor farming, vertical farming, but they're doing it with automation, with mobile bases, with arms. You can see the machine vision solutions there. Certainly the AI and software piece backs that all up, and I'm sure they're using the cloud. So we have tremendous opportunities in front of us in this industry to really solve the challenges of our day and our time, really our species. So that gets me up every day out of bed, and I'm excited about that. Finally, there is a skills gap, and we do need to pay attention to this. In Detroit, we opened over 300 new restaurants last year. That's awesome. Detroit's great now. Come visit if you're not there. I mean, it really is an awesome city. But there are stories like this that we're running. Line cook shortage. People can't find service employees. All of these types of things. It's because the labor, the people who are working, aren't necessarily looking for these types of jobs anymore. There's a divergent path for a lot of these folks wanting to do different things. So automation can help here. This is an example of a company called Osara, who's a member of our organization. They're using robotics, machine vision, AI to do, in this case, back-of-house kind of packaging solutions for bento boxes. But you could definitely see a world in which that robot and that solution is in front of house, helping prepare, helping sort food or replace food and things like that. So automation can certainly help address this challenge. Unemployment, as we all know, is at a 50-year low, but the skills gap has been formed. So the skills we need are technical skills, frankly. So in order to address this, to have people who can program the robots, who can do the type of work, frankly, that a lot of you are doing or the people that work for you are doing, we don't have enough of those people when we forecast forward into what we're going to need. So the Deloitte and the Manufacturing Institute put this forward, and they said by 2028, 2.4 million jobs will be left unfilled due to the skills gap, which is a lot of jobs. You can see the economic impact there of almost $500 billion being lost because we don't have the people to do this. So what we need to start thinking about is apprenticeship programs. How do we support two-year technical schools or the curriculum needed? I think ROS, this community, that's what you're working on, is incredibly important, and to whatever way we as an association can support your efforts, help you grow, I am all for this. Because like I said at the start, rising tide lifts all ships, and that's ultimately what we're here to do. Now, I'll close on these couple thoughts. The ABB and The Economist put forward an automation readiness index. You can see that the U.S. is not in the top 5. We're actually ranked 9th here. So we have a little bit of work to do in terms of structural support for automation initiatives. ARM is a good start. We have other government programs and support from Washington that will help eventually, but frankly, we need to do it more, and we need to do it more systemically throughout our culture. Areas like South Korea, Singapore, Germany, Japan, these are all countries who are at the top of this list, who are ready for automation and have the infrastructure to support it. So in summary, I won't go through all of these in the interest of time, but there is a lot to be positive about. Mobility, gripping, AI, and vision are 4 areas that we're watching, and ultimately, robots are going to help save and create jobs. The last thing I want to mention, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Automate 2021. I talked about Detroit a lot in this talk, but we are coming to Detroit next year. So if you haven't been to Automate, you want to come see these technologies in person, please see me. I'll be here today and tomorrow, and I'm happy to talk to you more about it. So with that, sorry for going over a little bit, Matt, but thank you all very much for your attention.
Thank you, Alex.